This was just a chart I took off of Nat Dania. It's a logarithmic chart because I'm more interested in the percentage gains and losses or whatever moves downward and upward in the movement of the price, not the absolute price. Um, I just want to point out some very common sense. We had a good percentage move, obviously, in the last 30 something days. It's been flat for about a week or so, but from all this doom and gloom panic at the end of the year, I bought some physical down here. Didn't buy the AGQ, was thinking about it, but I sure should have, in retrospect. Um, and I'm going to play a little more aggressive and act upon things that are my instincts versus other people's instincts in the future, because I don't want to say it's instincts, but let me put it this way. Technical information is very good, and it can give you some price points as to what psychologically will people buy and sell at. Obviously something's at a very high peak, and it hasn't been that high 30 years or something like that. That's a good no-brainer to sell. And that might have been some of what Eric Sprott's intentions were here, or whatever he was doing. But I'm going to watch that guy very carefully. And I don't know, whatever this guy, I'm going to get onto where that site is again. If I don't know if anybody's listening to this for the first time or not. But what Kid Dynamite said, because damn, I wish I was reading him before. So, but I do want to point out, when the silver was making his gains like this is a very dangerous market. Very dangerous. And I was ready to get out of it pretty soon. I really was. I figured it was going to go just a little over 50, and I was going to get out of it. And I got screwed up on that and got caught in this garbage too. But if I was in AGQ, I had plans to be unloading most of it at 200. And actually the stupid thing went up to 359. But 200 would have been another big gain too. So, I don't like this PSLV fund, to tell you the truth. I don't like that stuff. And now that I'm examining how that premium is working every time this garbage gets slammed down, or it's not just that, it's the fact that you got to watch whenever he makes another offering. I don't like that fund at all. I don't like it at all. I mean, that's just something else to watch, and to me, that's just more complexity I don't need. So, but I do want to point out something else. These markets, this time frame of the year, this really kind of surprised the heck out of me for it to go this high like this early in the year. I expected the stuff to go at the end of the year more, and that's typically what happens. Fourth quarter of the year, the commodities more take off than like you're talking like in the springtime. It usually isn't that way. It's just the opposite. And this year 2011 was like just the opposite of everything. It really threw a curveball. And so far, 2012 is quite the opposite. And I'm thinking that there might be a little bit of a downturn in the price of silver before it really takes off. That's my suspicion. That's my suspicion. But I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm going to do. This week coming up, if I see any kind of bad news about the euro coming out, or with the Greeks or whatever like that, and silver takes any more of a hit, I'm going to go in there for a small play on triple leverage. But if that thing pops up a percent or something like that, which would be 3% the next day, it's gone. That's the way I'm going to play it. Very short term. Very short term. And I'm not going to make major plays on that, because right now I'm a little nervous about the silver market. I got this rotten feeling that it's going to pull back a little bit before it really takes off like crazy. But I'm not going to try to pick the top. Like I said, I'm probably going to get in there hard on leverage, but I don't want this stuff cheap. And the same thing with the oil. I want it cheap. I don't want to pay a lot of money for it. But either way, I'm still positioned. And as far as what's going on with this Kid Dynamite, this article is pretty good. Kid Dynamite, I love this guy, man. He's Jewish too. He's fantastic, man. I wish I was reading this stuff. You know, Sprott registers to sell, and that's the first time I'm actually looking at this article, so I'm laughing. Sold to you, sucker. And yeah, actually, he had another article here on April 28th, 2011, about all the sales that Sprott was making. Now, you know, he's not going to be you know, if the stuff was going to be going up, he wouldn't be selling it. And I know people don't want to hear this, but me, I am 110% totally suspicious of most of these clowns that are giving advice, that are talking to each other and stuff like that. Now, I know there's other people out there. I'm going to name two names because I don't want to include these two people. Endless Mountain, honest. Brother John F., honest. And I do disagree with his fundamental $1,000 an ounce silver, but he's not trying to steer anybody wrong. I think he's not right on that issue, but what I'm saying is, you know, he's getting it from, well, fundamentally, silver is not going $1,000 an ounce in real dollars. No way. It's not. It might go that, but I'm not going to say to sell for that, you know, because there could be a problem where there's going to be hyperinflation, despite, and you don't know what these guys are doing. You don't know. And they change plans, and they try to trip people up. That's what the game is. So, I mean, I think holding physical silver, no matter what the hell happens, at least a portion of it is smart. It's not stupid. It's not stupid. And I am mainly into physical metal, so I'm actually a silver bug. So, I mean, don't get me wrong about this stuff about jumping in and out of these markets. And I'm not playing. It's not a play. It's not a game. It's about making money. But I'm going to pay very careful attention to this guy, Kid Dynamite, in the future. And I want to point this out again. This guy gave some good heads up. And, you know, when Lindsey Williams, say for instance, was given that information about $75 to maybe $100, but he was saying more like $75 silver by the end of the year, and I figured it was going to go up probably to 40 something. You know, that's what I figured. I just didn't. It doesn't make sense. It's this low to me at all. But that he was not trying to mislead people. I'm not saying he's a bad guy. But that guy that told him that stuff, he is. That's a definite. And it's not because the elite don't know. He knows. Because this Kid Dynamite picked up on the fact that this guy was selling. And, you know, to my opinion, no brainer. This guy knows a lot. This Sprott knows a lot. But you know what? He's the only guy I got information on, so I got to name his name, okay? I'm not really picking on him per se, like he's the only guy out there. But that tells you they know. There's people that know what's going on with this stuff. And plain as the sun rises in the morning, you know when they're pulling back on these margins, right? You know what they're doing. You know what they're doing. They're setting people up. Well, setting you up if you're stupid. Now, let me put it that way. Because beware, the price is going to start going up again probably because of that reason. And there's going to be like excessive speculation in the market, and they're going to raise margin calls, and stuff's going to crash down. That's why I said secure your gains in pieces, which to me, since they lowered margins, you know, when David Morgan's talking about $60 an ounce silver, and I think actually he's holding back because he doesn't want to be on record to say 75 or 80 or something, because maybe that's what it's going to go to. That's my suspicion. But I think it ain't going to go straight up there. There's going to be a hard pullback first. And the reason I say that it's got to be a hard pullback first is because they lowered these margins, which means they're going to raise them, and some people are going to know. You know the deal. So, like, if you're just holding physical silver forever, fine, whatever. But I think actually I might take a major risk because I'm greedy. And, if I saw silver go up to some crazy amount this year, which I think would be crazy, near to 100, which I don't think is anywhere near the ultimate price, I'd probably sell a significant amount of physical silver and then buy it back because I think it's going to be available. So I'd play the game because I think no matter what you're doing, you're playing the game no matter what. And but as far as this week coming up, if I see anything where there's that bad news on the euro, I think it's going to get resolved. I'm going to do a quick buy into the triple leverage. I don't know which way the markets are going, but if they tank a little bit more, I'm going to buy into it. I want to go over this article a little bit. A friend of mine sent to me, and I think it's very good. I'm going to go over it very briefly. It's about Occupy Wall Street. And I don't, in principle, yeah, I guess, the 99%, it's not even the 1% you're going against. It's not even a tenth of 1%. It's more like, a tenth of 1 basis point. How's that? That's what you're really going after. And you know what? You're a hell of a lot smarter than the insects. That's the way I look at them. Anyway, I'm going to post a link on this. And I think this is that's why I don't want to read this junk too much, but just to go over it real quick. According to these people, they conducted an extensive investigation of the Occupy movement to identify the people involved, as well as the money and influence behind it. We found is that nothing's related to the Occupy movement is what it appears. In fact, nothing from Arab Spring to domestic homeland security policy and beyond is what it appears to be. The conspiracy theory, but let me put it this way. That's legit. We found unsettling relationships between people elected and appointed officials, groups, and organizations that extend back many years. Yeah, same old story. Occupy is a sophisticated operation, and I saw that right away. I saw the symbology, the cute website, and some, there's people with brains in the Occupy movement, but then there's a lot of oh God, I don't even want to comment on that. But I mean, it's a mixture. It's a mixture. But the people with the brains ought to be smart enough to realize you're wasting your time getting behind this in this fashion. I think the best thing to do is to make money, if you can, and that's what I'm going to try to do. And it goes on to say, to call the Occupy movement a movement is to do it an injustice. We have found that it is an operation launched by the very same people who should be actual targets of the protesters. Instead, I guess, what is it? Webster Tarpley mentioned that Soros was trying to, take over the Occupy movement. Well, I mean, they throw his name out there left and right. I'm sure there's other people involved besides Soros, but I think the whole damn thing from day one was that way. Instead, it is the 1% or 1/100th of 1 basis point global elite who are organizing, directing, and funding the operation behind the scenes. Their purpose is to create chaos, deflect the blame away from the actual financial terrorists to targets of lesser importance, which is true. You think a guy with $300 million is a shitload of money, but they're not the elite. And I shouldn't really keep saying this shit, but I'm stupid. But I've seen a lot of stuff. There's more money out there than you think. A lot more. And I seem to gravitate to these kind of people, so maybe I'm one of them too, for all I know. It is exactly this chaos that served as justification of the recent legislation redefining domestic extremists. So they get to do more legislation to crack down because people are playing Occupy Wall Street. The financial looting of America and other sovereign nations by the big banks, politicians, and crony capitalists is beginning to unravel. When the curtain is pulled back and true perpetrators are exposed, there'll be rampant chaos in the streets of America. That's something that Gerald Celente says, right? But, I already know that. The politicians, bankers, and Federal Reserve and other individuals of prominence and perpetrators know that that's going to happen. Of course they know it. So consequently, the U.S. government enacted legislation in anticipation of the public outrage. So they're gonna push this Occupy movement, and you got to watch Russia Today big time. I know people think it's some kind of alternative media. They want to see things that are outside the major media, and I'm not sticking up for the major media. I'm sticking up for me, and that's where I look. But I'm telling you flat out, Russia Today is a scam. They're a total scam. There's nothing on that stuff that's worthwhile. If they put Alex Jones on there and they put Ron Paul on there, the whole bunch is a scam. And I'm just telling you this flat out because I'm going to be blatantly honest on this thing. I'm not going to pull any punch. Well, I'm not trying to punch anybody. I'm just trying to give the flat out truth. All those guys are a scam. And now, I wasn't really into Bob Chapman. I started listening to him a little bit, but he influenced some of my decisions. And, Lindsey Williams is not a scam, but he's getting scammed now. He's getting fed information that's a mixed bag. And I think there is a no-brainer truth to the truth to the allegation that oil prices want to be driven up by the oil elite. I mean, really. Do you think the oil prices want to be driven up by the oil elite? Yeah, I think so. They sell oil, don't they? So the policies in the Middle East probably are greatly influenced by them, and all these things are going to come about. I think that's correct. But as far as the timing and the specific dates that was given for the price movements of oil, that was total lies. And it wasn't lies by Lindsey Williams. It was a lies by that elite guy. And that was a lies as far as the price of silver, too. Big time. So, if he gives you any kind of information as far as, what you're going to base a financial decision on, it's piss poor. Can't trust it. So, and I'm not saying Lindsey Williams trying to mislead people. But as far as the oil prices exploding in the near-term future, I think that's a no-brainer. It's going to happen. And I want this stuff as cheap as possible. That's what I'm looking for. And I think they're going to drive it down a little bit. Because the way I think markets are moved, and they can't move them like forever, But what they could do is they could move them with news stories. That's why I got highly suspicious of that news story about, them having problems with resolving things in Greece. And yet the markets took it as good news, and then all of a sudden the next day it kind of came about. I kind of expected that more from Monday. But if I see some more bad news about this Greek situation, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to buy into triple leveraged silver. And it might be a longer term hold because I could be wrong. Silver could be going down. Quite obviously, if technicals can tell you the future, you'd have to keep that to yourself. You would never ever, if you had a technical way of, ripping the other guy off, basically, which is what the game is, you would never ever publicly display that in a million years because you just ruin your game. It's like the guy that had the hot dog stand out on Wall Street. I remember this was back in like 1978 or whatever it was. And in 1978, he was making like $100,000 a year selling hot dogs over in Wall Street. And like an idiot, he had a news reporter come up to him and they did a story. And immediately, a couple dozen more hot dog stands opened up and it totally destroyed his business. So, quite obviously, if you got an angle, you keep your mouth shut. That's the whole game. But to tell you the truth, I don't know which way these markets are going. And I play more by psychology than anything. That's just my way of doing things. And I do look at the technical information. And I think they're very good at picking the bottoms and the pullbacks. But, like when I look at it, is like this way. If you got all the girls, and, I'm talking referring to men, you know, when they all running because the euro is going to fall apart next week and all this kind of shit. If I get some kind of news out like that, I'm going to buy. I'm going to buy. I'm going to try to catch that low. I'm going to buy, and I'm going to dump it as soon as it gets a gain. Goodbye. That's exactly how I'm going to play it. So, psychology could be a good scam too, and that's exactly how I'm going to play it. But watch all these clowns out there. The Occupy Wall Street movement. I know there's people out there with brains that know what's going on, but largely it's a scam by the elite. So while you're doing that crap, somebody's out there protesting in the street, you could be making money. And I'm not going to post every damn scam trick there is out on this stupid YouTube in a million years. But make money any possible way you can. Get your power, and that keeps you above them. You know what I mean? The more you got, the better off you are. That's the way I look at it.